I'm going to call the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Mr Chair, having listened to that contribution, I felt compelled to get to my feet and talk about the KiwiSaver bill. That 38% that he was talking about are more likely to be under 5-year-olds, parents who opened up a KiwiSaver account so that they could have a prospect of their child having a nest egg when they get older. Oh my gosh, where's he from? And that is the $1,000 that he's taking away from, is the future generation and those parents who have a hope that they might have a nest egg. Mr Speaker, in speaking to Section 3 of the bill, it's really important to go back to the principles of the back to the Principal Act. And it is important that we create a generation of savers. In fact, you go to a number of schools, many of us will remember the days, or some of us will remember the days, when you had the old post bank deposit book, and you took a gold coin, your squirrel account, you took your account and you were able to save, and by the time you left primary school, you had a little savings. Well, you know, those days are gone. And in fact, what we knew when KiwiSaver was initiated was that there were a generation who hadn't known what savings was all about until KiwiSaver came along. The $1,000 kickstart will help those families who are in the middle, who are working hard, earning 2 incomes, want the prospect of something for their kids to have when they turn 18 and can earn and have a little bit of a savings history to be able to continue to save. Now, I think that's a good idea, don't you? If you were listening to the government, you would have people think that this $1,000 is being taken away from the most vulnerable. The reality is the most vulnerable cannot save. But those hard-working families who do have 2 incomes, who want the prospect of their children to have a nest egg when they get older, will suffer. And Mr Bennett knows, like I know, having visited St Vincent de Paul's, that the working poor is becoming more of a prospect in Hamilton than ever before. These are people who go to St Vincent de Paul's and do have an income. They are working. They still have to go to these services to get a food parcel. He's taking $1,000 away from them. And that's a shame, because what we know is it's so important now more than ever before to ensure that people can save for their future, because they cannot rely on a universal superannuation. In fact, the government, people don't know from 1 minute to the next whether or not the government will actually continue to put into the super fund. But here's the thing. Here's the thing for good New Zealanders who are listening to this debate on a Saturday morning when the government's putting through under urgency this policy to take away $1,000. What are they saying to working New Zealanders? We're going to pull the rug out of you. The first bit of legislation that they put in the House under urgency was a child hardship grant, raising the abatement threshold by 1.25%, Mr Speaker, actually takes away from working families, and that's the point of the kickstart. The kickstart takes away from those families who are working, who do want the prospect to be able to save for their children. When Mr Bennett talked about the 38% who weren't putting anything into KiwiSaver, I thought to myself, what planet is he on? He's certainly not in touch with the real world. Certainly not in touch with the real world. In fact, I've met a number of parents who were delighted with the kickstart payment, and they said, for the first time, I can open up an account for my child and then just put a little bit away over time, a little bit at a time, and then by the time they reach 5, by the time they reach 10, they can talk to their child about this little nest egg that's growing. By the time they reach 18, they can say to their child, it's your time. In fact, many parents said, you know, I'm hoping that my child will do a little bit of get a job at 14, just doing little things like selling feijoas on the side of the street or something like that. But whatever it is, it's parents trying to teach the next generation that saving for the future is really important. And the national government is taking away $1,000 contribution from working families who want the hope and the prospect of a nest egg for their children. It's a shame, and it's a shame that the government's doing it under urgency.
I call James.